You've been doing everything by hand. Typing the same curl command, checking the same endpoints, running the same 3 tools in the same order, every single time. That's fine when you're learning. But the moment you start repeating yourself, a script can do it for you, faster, and while you sleep. In this episode, you'll write your first real automation in both Bash and Python, the two languages that run this entire field. By the end, you'll have a script that checks a whole list of targets on its own. Let's stop repeating and start scripting. Here's the core mindset. Computers are fantastic at doing the same boring thing 1,000 times without getting tired or making typos. You are fantastic at deciding what's worth doing. So the deal is simple. You hand the repetitive work to a script and you spend your brain on the interesting parts, the actual bugs. Recon especially is full of repetition, checking hundreds of subdomains, hitting dozens of endpoints, pulling the same fields out of every response. That's not thinking work, that's typing work. And typing work is exactly what automation is for. Let's start with Bash, because you already live in the terminal. A Bash script is just a text file full of the same commands you type by hand. Put a shebang on the first line, hashbang /bin/bash, so the system knows how to run it. Then add your commands, one per line. Save it as recon.sh. Make it executable once with chmod plus x, and from then on you just run /recon.sh. Variables are easy too, name equals value with no spaces, and you read it back with a $sign in front. That's 90% of Bash right there. The real power shows up with a loop. A for loop walks through a list and runs the same commands for each item. For host in, then your list, do, some commands, done. Suddenly one script checks 100 targets instead of you checking one. You can loop over a word list, over a file of subdomains, over a range of IDs. Anything you'd otherwise copy, paste and edit 100 times becomes 4 lines that do it perfectly, every time, in seconds. Let's build a real one. Here's a tiny recon script. It reads a file of hosts, loops over each one, and uses curl to check if the site is alive, printing the status code next to the name. curl-s-o/leb/null-w, then the http_code variable gives you just the status number, nothing else. So in one run, you see which hosts answer with a 200, which threw a 403, and which are dead. That's a live host checker, the kind of thing real hunters run first on every engagement, and you just wrote it in under 10 lines. 2 more upgrades, and your Bash is genuinely useful. First, functions. Wrap a block of commands in a name and call it whenever you want, so you're not copying the same lines around. Second, arguments. When you run a script, you can pass values after it, and inside the script they show up as $1, $2, and so on. So /recon.sh targets.txt lets you point the same script at any file. Reusable, flexible, and it starts to feel like a real tool. Bash is perfect for gluing commands together, but the moment you need real logic, if this then that, parsing structured data, talking to an API properly, Bash gets painful fast. That's when you reach for Python. Python is readable, it's everywhere in security, and almost every tool you'll admire later is written in it. You don't need to be a software engineer. You need loops, conditions, and one library. Let's cover exactly that much, and nothing you won't use. Python basics, the useful slice. A variable is just name equals value, no $signs this time. A list holds many things in square brackets, like a list of endpoints to check. A for loop reads for item in list, colon, and then an indented block, and that indentation matters, it's how Python groups code. An if statement checks a condition and runs the block underneath it. Save it as probe.py, run it with Python 3probe.py. That's the whole skeleton of every script you'll write. Now the one library that makes Python a hacking tool, requests. It sends web requests in a single clean line. Import requests at the top, then r=request.get, and the URL fires a get and hands you back everything about the response. r.status_code is the number, 200, 404, and so on. r.text is the body. r.headers is a dictionary of the headers. Need a post? Requests.post with a data or JSON argument. Need a custom header, like an auth token. Pass a headers dictionary. That's your whole web toolkit in about 5 method calls. Let's put it together into a real pro. Here's a script that takes a list of paths, admin, backup.get.env, and requests each one against a target, printing only the ones that come back interesting. Loop over the paths, do a request.get for each, and if the status code is 200, print found plus the URL. In a few seconds, it quietly tells you which hidden paths actually exist, instead of you typing each one into a browser. That's a content discovery script, a baby version of the fuzzers you'll use later, and it's maybe 15 lines of Python. One quick but important upgrade to that row. Don't let a single bad host kill your whole run. Two things to it. First, always set a timeout on your requests. Request.get earl timeout equals 5. So a dead server doesn't hang your script forever. Second, wrap the request in a try except blob, so if one host errors out, you print a warning and keep going instead of crashing on target number 3. A script that survives bad input is a script you can actually leave running. Robust beats clever. One more skill that pays off constantly, parsing JSON. Modern AP is answered in JSON and Python speaks it natively. Call r.json and the response becomes a normal Python dictionary. Now you just reach in by key, data, users, 0, email, pulls one user's email out of the whole blob. No manual searching, no copy paste. This is JQ from the last couple of episodes, but with real logic around it, loops, conditions, and saving exactly what you care about to a file. The pros don't pick Bash or Python, they use both. The pattern is Bash glues tools together and moves data around, and Python does the thinking, the parsing, the decisions. One classic combo, run your Recon tools from a Bash script, dump everything into text files, then let a Python script read those files, sort out what matters, and hand you a clean list. Small pieces, each doing one job, chained together, is exactly how the big Recon pipelines you will build later actually work. So far we've printed to the screen, but real automation saves its findings. In Bash, just redirect with a greater than sign, /recon.sh, greater than live.txt, and your results land in a file. In Python, open a file and write to it, or simplest of all, print as normal and redirect the whole script's output. Go one step further and give each target its own folder with its own files. Now every run leaves a clean, organized trail you can compare over time and feed into the next tool. Here's where automation starts feeling like magic, scheduling. On Linux, cron runs any command on a timer. One line in your cron tab and your Recon script fires every night at 2 AM, checking your targets while you're asleep. You wake up to a fresh file of results, and if you save each run, you can diff last night against tonight and instantly spot new subdomains or endpoints that just appeared. That's how the pros catch new attack surface the moment it goes live without lifting a finger. 4 habits that will save you. 1. Start tiny. Get one request working before you loop over 1,000. 2. Print everything while you build so you can see what the script is actually doing. 3. Be gentle with targets. Add a small delay so you don't hammer a server with hundreds of requests. A second that's both polite and stealthier. And 4. Use a Python virtual environment so your tools don't collide. Small habits, scripts you can trust. Why does this matter so much? Because automation is leverage. The hunter who checks targets by hand looks at 10. The one with the script looks at 10,000 overnight and wakes up to a shortlist worth testing. Every serious bounty hunter and pentester automates the boring 90% so they can spend their attention on the 10% that actually finds bugs. The moment you can write a loop, the size of what you can take on completely changes. Quick recap. Bash for gluing commands, a shebang, variables, a for loop, functions, and arguments. Python when you need logic, lists, loops, ifs, and the request library for the web. Parse JSON with .json into a dictionary. Combine the two, Bash to move data, Python to think. And be gentle with your targets. That's your first automation toolkit. Screenshot this. That's it. You can automate now. And that single skill will follow you through the entire rest of the series. Next episode we open module 3, Reconnaissance, where all of this pays off, the Recon mindset, and how the best hunters map an entire target before they ever look for a bug. Subscribe so you're there, and tell me, what's the first boring task you're going to script away? See you in the next one.